Hello, my name is Gemma Bellhouse, and I'm the Test Product Quality Assurance Manager for Aptis, the British Council's 4-skills computer-based English language test. I manage the pre-testing, test construction, and the quality control processes of Aptis. My team and I also manage the special accommodations for the Aptis test candidates. This falls under the broad category of EDI for Aptis. EDI stands for Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion. Today, I'll be talking to you about our new Aptis Remote test delivery and other outcomes of the current global climate, specifically with an EDI focus. First, let's look at EDI at the British Council. Equality, diversity, and inclusion are important themes for our products around the world, whether in the arts, society, inclusive education, teaching English, or in the exams that we offer. We refer to the idea of mainstreaming the EDI thinking into our processes. That is, that EDI is integral to each and every stage of every product and policy. You can see a visual framework representation here on the slide, and the 6 areas of diversity that go around the outer circle: age, disability, ethnicity or race, gender, religion or belief, and sexual identity. We integrate these areas into the legal, business, and moral approaches of our products, with the hope to make everyone's experiences richer and ultimately lead to more inclusive societies. So let's look briefly at the product that I am most familiar with. The Aptis test is a 4-skills computer-based test, and it tests proficiency levels from CFR levels A to C. There are different variants of Aptis that are available as per the client's needs. So how does the Aptis EDI query process work? How do Aptis candidates get their special accommodations approved? Since the beginning of Aptis, the EDI query system has been completely individualized. Rather than standardizing the EDI offering, we want to find the best solution and correct accommodations for each test candidate. So how does it work? First, a test candidate will notify their test center about their disability and previous test experience. The test center representative, a British Council employee, will then get in touch with the EDI team through our internal email and potentially ask for a specific accommodation. The case is logged and considered open. We hold a dialogue with the test center representative until the accommodations are agreed with the test candidate. It may be that we need to create extra resources for the test candidate, such as a braille test or a paper test with a larger font. We may also need to consult with members of the assessment research group or people from the business and marketing team. And we may need to work directly with Aptis examiners to get a skill marked offline, which can take longer. For that reason, we ask that EDI queries are raised 6 to 8 weeks in advance of the test date, although typically that much time is not needed. Once the candidate has taken their Aptis test, we ask for feedback using a standardized form so that we can continue to improve our processes and the customer experience. Once we receive the form and the feedback is taken into account, the case is then closed. Some of the more common accommodations include extra time, which can be for dyslexia and other cognitive or visual difficulties. Candidates can ask for an exemption from certain components, potentially for candidates who are hard of hearing. And another accommodation is to have a familiar person in the room, such as a teacher, for emotional support, and this can be for a range of disabilities. But last year, Aptis as we knew it and our processes were forced to change. From the very onset of COVID-19, the typical test center delivery for Aptis was suspended around the world. Although Aptis was already a computer-based test and taken online, the need for secure online invigilation was then very apparent. In direct response to the new world we found ourselves in when COVID-19 began to spread, the Global Assessments team immediately got to work on a new model and solution now called Aptis Remote. Aptis Remote offers a new way of secure testing and combines the benefits of online testing with video monitoring to ensure a secure experience and reliable results. Aptis Remote has the same format, structure, and timing as a standard Aptis test. Available around the world, Aptis Remote now allows test takers to take the test from the comforts of their own home using remote proctoring software. And as part of the overall test delivery process, candidates must first register their ID details before the test day sitting. The candidate must verify their identity and do a face scan. Then the test candidate will validate their ID on the test day right before completing the online Aptis test. Proctor Track will monitor the candidate by recording a video of the candidate while they take the test. The software then provides alerts on unusual activities which are reviewed after the test by our test administrators. Unusual activities can include the candidate leaving the room or looking away from the screen for a long time, for example. These additional levels of security ensure accuracy and validity of the test, and as always, we ensure a fast turnaround of results. That being said, it's not as simple as it sounds. There have been some difficulties in implementing this new mode of delivery and some lessons learned through the trials. In order to launch Aptis Remote, like with other products created by the British Council, it had to go through what is called an ESIA. ESIA stands for Equality Screening and Impact Assessment. The aim of the assessment of the product is to improve policies by ensuring equality and inclusion at all stages of the customer experience. The ESIA screening is accomplished in 2 steps. Firstly, a range of equality screening questions and categories are reviewed by the product owner or manager. Secondly, if deemed necessary, a panel of people are invited to discuss the product in all its aspects and to raise an action plan if any gaps are identified. During the ESIA panel discussion for Aptis Remote test delivery, many questions were raised about the policy and its implementation, including, what if the candidate needs to leave the room, for example, to take a toilet break or to feed a baby? What if the candidate has undergone a gender transition and the ID is not accepted by the software? What if the candidate is wearing a headscarf that covers their face and they cannot be identified? And what if the candidate does not have a suitable room with enough privacy at home for a complete 4 skills test? These and many more questions were raised. It became apparent that while we expected the remote delivery to create more accessibility, there was still work to do. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, Aptis was delivered in test centers and with trained invigilators. If there were technical difficulties or confusion about the test instructions, test candidates in these test centers could receive IT and other support in their local language. For EDI special accommodations, our invigilators in the test centers could provide extra assistance. We had to wonder, are we allowing more people the chance to take their English test with this remote test delivery? Or are we in fact making the test even less accessible for some people, depending on factors that are perhaps outside of their control? One clear action point that arose from the ESIA discussions was to translate the instructions for Aptis into local languages and to provide more direct administrative support to test candidates. Aptis Remote test delivery was born from the impact of COVID-19 and the quick need for delivery flexibility for test candidates around the world. However, it has now become a core offering of Aptis and an important option for many clients. We have identified some issues to improve thanks to the ESIA process, and our team is now working on these resulted actions. We acknowledge that we are a small team, but we know it is imperative that we maximize our test product inclusivity. Our aim is to make Aptis available to all English language learners, no matter their disability, their group, or their context. During the year 2020, several social issues were brought to the close attention of the world. This has led organizations like the British Council to rethink and review our own way of doing things. Are we mainstreaming the EDI approach in our policies as well as we claim? This heightened awareness of world issues has given us the opportunity to glimpse inwards, to consider our own biases, and to reflect on the organization's influence. We have been working to inspect our potential to resolve these inequalities and injustices. Firstly, within the organization and amongst our colleagues, including our thousands of English teachers worldwide. And secondly, regarding our English language products and policies that can influence the world at large. We have a new internal working group for colleagues who are involved in exams and interested in becoming more active in EDI projects. The group is called EDI and Exams, and one of the action points on the group's agenda is to carry out what we have called an Aptis EDI content review. First, we will take a very careful look at all of our Aptis general content with these three categories in mind. First, group representation. Are minority groups represented in the images we use in our tests? And how can we better ensure a strong representation? Secondly, a privilege balance. This refers to a review of both gender and class biases and assigning authority roles deliberately, for example, within male and female dialogues, and also when selecting specific English accents. In doing this, we plan to avoid reinforcing existing prejudices that have potential negative impact. Thirdly, for the category of sociocultural range, we will consider the representation and biases of how to approach other cultural and environmental topics, such as food, music, dance, and housing. After reviewing the Aptis general content, our aim is to create a new Aptis EDI quality policy. This policy will be used by Aptis test item writers and quality reviewers, and also by our internal team. The policy will help to ensure that our test content is accessible and impartial to all test candidates, and will provide regulation on creating tests that are representative and inclusive. Rather than upholding and being limited to outdated stereotypes, we intend to use this policy to deliberately and consciously shine a positive light on all ethnicities and cultures, and to encourage diverse lifestyles and open perspectives. Thank you for your attention today, and I hope that you enjoy the TESOL 2021 conference.